welcome to Race to the White House, a show where we get you the latest from the US elections. On today's show, we'll tell you how an attack on Kamala Harris' campaign office in Arizona has once again raised the issue of rising political violence in the US. Also on the show, we'll tell you how Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance and Democratic Party's Tim Walz are preparing for the debate next month. All of this and much more, so let's get started. Reports have now emerged saying that shots were fired into Vice President Kamala Harris' campaign office in Phoenix. Now, this has sparked security concerns just ahead of elections. Phoenix police have confirmed that several shots were fired into the windows of the office in the wee hours. Fortunately, no one was injured. But the incident has raised alarms, especially as the 2024 election race heats up. The campaign office was empty at the time of the shooting, but staff members say they are shocked and rattled by the attack. Now, detectives are currently analyzing evidence collected at the scene, and additional measures have been taken to beef up security. This shooting comes just days before the vice president is expected to make a campaign stop in the swing states. Now, Harris is set to visit Arizona this Friday. The shooting also comes on the heels of the second assassination attempt on Trump's life last week. Now, this incident is part of a larger pattern. Political tensions are boiling over, leading to increased attacks on political leaders in the United States. Now, this attack has raised a disturbing question. Could this be more than just an attack? Could this be an assassination attempt on Kamala Harris or a warning sign? While there's no direct evidence yet linking the attack to an organized plot, the timing and target have heightened concerns. You should know that gun crime is particularly a hot topic in Democratic Arizona politics. As a matter of fact, a Democrat leader has previously faced an assassination attempt in Arizona. In 2011, Arizona House Representative Gabrielle Giffords was shot at along 7 others in Tucson. Now, the bullet went through Giffords' brain and put her in a medically induced coma. However, Giffords was able to later relearn how to talk and walk, eventually earning the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her efforts to combat gun violence. From assassination attempts to targeted attacks on campaign offices, violence tied to political divisions has become a growing concern in the United States. Leaders are now urging Americans to reject violence and embrace peaceful political discourse as the health of the country's democracy hangs in balance. But will the world's oldest democracy reject the divisions and violence, or will it get worse? That remains to be seen. Moving on, in a bold political move, Vice President Kamala Harris has now announced her support for ending the Senate filibuster to restore national abortion rights. So, with reproductive rights becoming a key battleground issue, Harris is calling for decisive action in Washington. Harris outlined her position during an interview on Monday with Wisconsin Police Radio. So during the conversation, Harris said that when it comes to the issue of abortion, she believes the Senate should do away with the filibuster rule. Now, the filibuster rule requires a 60-vote threshold for most legislations to pass. For years, the debate over the filibuster has divided both Democrats and Republicans. Now, while Harris's message is being celebrated by abortion rights advocates, Republicans and some moderate Democrats warn that removing the filibuster could lead to increased political polarization. Her message could carry particular weight in Wisconsin, a crucial battleground state where virtually no legal abortions were performed for nearly 15 months. Now, this comes in the aftermath of the Supreme Court's decision in 2022 to strike down Roe v. Wade decision. Proponents of the rule argue that it encourages bipartisan cooperation, while critics like Harris say it has been weaponized to block crucial legislation supported by the majority of Americans. Republicans warn that if the filibuster is eliminated, it could set a dangerous precedent, leading to further polarization and gridlock in Washington. Moreover, Harris has also faced pushback from 2 independent US senators. Retiring West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has said that she won't be backing Harris for president. The filibuster showdown is shaping up to be one of the defining political battles of this election. With Kamala Harris now publicly backing its end, the pressure on Senate Democrats to act is mounting. For the Biden-Harris administration, it's not just about abortion access. It's about drawing a clear line for voters on where they stand. Polls show that reproductive rights could be a decisive issue, particularly among women and younger voters. But will Democrats have enough support to make such a dramatic change in Senate rules? Remains to be seen. So, for more in this, we are now being joined by our White House correspondent Rohit Sharma from Washington, D.C. Thank you, Rohit, for joining us. So, my first question to you is, what is filibuster and how does it actually work?
Very important. We've seen Kamala Harris make some of the comments on the campaign trail that do not traditionally fit in the Democratic talking points. And getting rid of filibuster now, that's a very important thing. And let me explain to you what filibuster is. It is not written in the Constitution, but it is a procedure that the Senate follows. And what it does, what it says essentially is the fact that any bill that needs to be passed in the Senate has to have 60 votes. And this is exactly why a lot of high ticket items, for example, Roe v. Wade and immigration reform and tax cuts and other important things that are important to from domestic point of view, from domestic policy point of view, are in the limbo because the Senate does not have support of 60 senators wanting to vote on that bill. Now, to get rid of filibuster would essentially mean you're opening up floodgates for any party who has 51 senators to pass laws that may not have a broad support among Americans. For example, if Trump were to come into power and he wants to change immigration laws, he could do it with 51 senators. I mean, if he needs 51 votes or 51 Republicans in the Senate to be able to support it. But the reason filibuster exists is to keep the Senate in check, to ensure that there are 60 votes. And mind you, getting 60 senators in the US Senate is not an easy job for either party. We really haven't had that since Obama, and even Obama had 58, did not have 60. So that's the makeup of the Senate. And I think what it does, that it allows everybody to review a bill, to weigh all the options and then come to a bipartisan compromise. So to get rid of filibuster, as Kamala Harris has suggested today, would mean that she's opening up the floodgates. And this obviously is something that's pretty new coming from Kamala Harris. She has served as a senator. So for her to say that she would go as extreme and as far as asking the Senate Majority Leader to get rid of filibuster is obviously going to create a lot of controversy and interest among American people.
All right. So, have we seen any opposition to her announcement so far?
She has. She has already received some criticism. They've got two former Democratic senators who are currently serving as independents. They switched their party alliance, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, and both of them have come out and sort of said that they do not appreciate what she had said on the campaign trail. Joe Manchin, he was a headache for Joe Biden in his term, essentially killing Biden's key priorities by not wanting to vote on party lines, and he switched and became an independent. He's come out and said that he would not endorse Kamala Harris. Now, remember a couple of weeks ago when he was asked around the DNC time, and he said he was going to come out and support Kamala Harris. But now, today, after these comments, he said he's not going to endorse Kamala Harris. And there could be other senators as well, who probably would not feel comfortable with what Kamala Harris has said. But the fact that she has gone on the record to say this essentially also means that she's making sure that abortion is the center it stays at the center of her campaign messaging. And that I think the message that she wants to probably convey is that she can go as extreme as getting rid of filibuster to codify Roe v. Wade, which again is central to her campaign.
Okay, so my last question to you is, just over a month is left to elections. Who has the upper hand right now?
The race is tight. I mean, we've seen some new polls come in, and we always say this: polls are polls, but then polls are also telling polls. The race is tight. She is doing okay-ish in some battleground trades. I mean, and when I say okay-ish, leading by 0.3 points and 1 point, which essentially is telling you that she's not doing as great as people expected her to do, especially after she replaced Joe Biden And President Trump has been pulling it through. I mean, he's leading comfortably in some of the swing states and giving her, Kamala Harris a run for her money, literally, in some of the other key swing states. So the race is definitely tied, from a lot of key polling that we've found out, and we are only about uh, 43 days, 41 days away from election. So it is definitely going to be interesting. And the other interesting thing to watch out for would be next Tuesday, when the vice presidential candidates go head to head against each other in their only debate. That would be on next Tuesday night at 9 p.m. in New York. So it is getting close. And I think the race for the White House is definitely getting very, very, very close. And nobody knows as of now, and nobody should predict that who would win the White House.
All right, Rohit, thank you so much for this. We'll be coming back to you for more updates on US elections. And now it's time to talk about Washington's favorite pastime, presidential debates. Now, Republicans' VP contender J.D. Vance is set to debate his Democratic rival Tim Walz on October 1st. Now, as Trump was left decimated by Harris in the last presidential debate, stakes are high for J.D. Vance now. Our next report gives you the inside scoop on how Vance and Walz are planning to bring heat on each other next month.
Vice presidential candidates J.D. Vance and Tim Walz will go head-to-head in the vice presidential debate in 1 week. The debate is set to be a showdown of contrasting styles and vision for the future of America. Without a second presidential debate on the cards, this VP debate could be the last chance for the presidential campaigns to sway crucial undecided voters. Now both Vance and Walz are deep in debate preparation. Sources close to Vance's campaign say that the Ohio senator is balancing a sharp critique of Walz's policies. Vance's strategy revolves around two key pillars: economic messaging and positioning himself as the champion of real Americans. A big part of Vance's strategy will involve going after Governor Walz's record in Minnesota. Vance's campaign is prepared to point out what they view as missteps in Walz's handling of the economy, healthcare, and the pandemic. The Republicans are betting on the idea that Vance's sharp critiques will resonate with voters who are feeling the pinch of rising prices and stagnant wages. Meanwhile, Tim Walz, the former teacher-turned-governor, is likely to stick to his strengths, steady leadership, and his track record in Minnesota. Walz has faced challenges, but remains popular for his pragmatic approach. Vance's challenges will be to break through that calm exterior with a message that appeals to both undecided voters and the conservative base. However, Walz can cash in the Haitian migrants eating pets narrative on Vance anytime during the debate. As we inch closer to the big debate, one thing is for certain: J.D. Vance is preparing for a high-energy performance aimed at shaking up the race. Whether his strategy of attacking Walz's record while positioning himself as the voice of the working class will succeed remains to be seen. But this debate could very well define the trajectory of the 2024 election. Bureau Report, India Today Global.
And now it's time to talk in numbers. With less than 40 days remaining for the US presidential polls, the race for White House is becoming quite intense. And Vice President Kamala Harris is maintaining a narrow lead nationally and a neck-to-neck battle in the swing states. So let's take a look at how presidential contenders are faring in polls today. According to the New York Times poll, Harris is leading in the national polls with an approval rating of about 49%, while Trump is trailing at 47%. In the swing state of Michigan, Harris is maintaining a lead at about 49%, while Trump is at 47%. In the state of Pennsylvania, Harris is at 49% with a narrow lead, while Trump is at 48%. In the states of North Carolina and Nevada, Harris and Trump are both at a tie, locked in with 48% rating. In the state of Wisconsin, Harris is maintaining a lead at about 50%, while Trump is at 48%. In the state of Arizona, Trump has taken a lead at about 48%, while Harris is now at 47%. And in the state of Georgia, Trump again has taken a narrow lead at about 49%, while Harris is at 47%. And now time for some quick updates from US's political landscape that you might have missed. First up, Donald Trump has now offered a series of incentives to encourage foreign companies to relocate to the United States if he wins the election. This comes as Trump has pledged to create special manufacturing zones on federal funds. The former president says the new incentive will include low taxes and fewer regulations. However, this will only be given to companies that relocate manufacturing to the US. Next up, the leader of a non-profit representing the Haitian community in Ohio has now filed criminal charges against Donald Trump and JD Vance. This comes due to the chaos and threats experienced by Springfield since Trump and Vance began spreading false claims about the legal migrants. The Haitian Bridge Alliance invoked its private citizen right to file the charges in the wake of inaction by the local prosecutor. Now, the affidavit alleges Trump and Vance disrupted public service by their baseless claims about the migrants eating pets. And at last, Donald Trump's campaign confused a key swing state for a European country in an embarrassing ad gaffe. Now, the Trump campaign shared an image of Georgia, the one that's in Eastern Europe, instead of the one with the peach state itself. Now, the Shutterstock image shared by the campaign also had a description of the country's mountain. While the state of Georgia does include portions of the Blue Ridge Mountains, the terrain has a different look than the country. So that's all we have for you in this edition of Race for the White House. Stay tuned to India Today Global for more updates on US elections.